so beginning with next episode, we're going to start a series where we break down every division, so one episode per division. But before we did that, we wanted to slow it down and take a generalized approach to the NFL before we go deeper in. And we wanted to talk about the divisions. So each of us has a different division that we feel is the toughest division, and we'll share those. And then we've got a little thing at the end that we think will be a little bit of fun. But talking the toughest divisions, I'll start, guys. To me, it's not that hard. The NFC West, to me, is the best. I think it's the two best teams. If we're talking about which division has the two best teams across the board, I think it's the NFC West with the Seahawks and the 49ers. Some will make a case that it's the Buccaneers and the Saints. That's a fine argument, but I think that the Buccaneers are great on paper right now with all the weapons, but we don't know how they'll look just yet. But the NFC West to me is proven. I've got a Super Bowl. I've got two Super Bowl contenders. One team that was in the Super Bowl, and the other team's got Russell Wilson, so they're never out of it. And then top to bottom, the Cardinals. I think all three of us agree that they're making progress slowly but surely. The Rams we're not sure about, but with McVay at the helm, you never know exactly. So top to bottom, probably the best division in my opinion, but just because you have the 49ers and the Seahawks as your top two teams, that's who I believe is the best division in football. But Drew, I know you have a different opinion there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NFC West definitely, probably top to bottom, is probably the most competitive when it comes to all four teams. But you already said it with the Bucs and Saints. I'm going with the NFC South. I think the Saints, I've proven that they're always going to be one of those teams that you're going to have to compete against. And I think they're kind of putting all their chips in these next couple of years with Drew Brees being basically retired after this year. And then with the Bucs, again, on paper, they look great. And I think that'll translate for sure with Tommy B. I don't think he's a loser. I think he's always going to go anywhere he goes. He was going to be a winner. And I think you just add those weapons. And I think with Bruce Arians, he's also a very good head coach for that team. And then with the Falcons, they're a wild card team in my opinion. They're a team that 3 years ago were in the Super Bowl and were up 28-3 in the third quarter. So I think their team it does look different from that Super Bowl run, but I believe that they still have the weapons and the coaching staff to get them there. And then with the Panthers, I think they're always going to be competitive right now. Having CMC, it's definitely going to be a tough out every game, but I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but I think they're going to always be a competitive game. I think they're going to be a team that's going to be 5-11, but all their games are going to be won within 7 to 10 points. They're going to lose by 7 to 10 points. So I think as a whole, they're just as competitive as the NFC West.
All right, Pookie, I have a feeling you're going to be playing a homer here.
I am. I think that the NFC West and the NFC South are both very competitive divisions, and they may have more talented players, but in my opinion, the AFC North is the most competitive or most difficult division to play in. But it also raises the question of what are the Cleveland Browns going to do? They have the look of a playoff team on paper. They have a lot of talent, and they have a new coach in. So you could definitely make a case for them being a playoff team. I think if they would have been in a more well-coached team last year, they probably would have made it. But you also have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have one of the top defenses in the NFL. They have Ben Roethlisberger coming back, and he's shown that he's been able to stand the test of time. So it's very likely that they could be a playoff team or very close to being a playoff team. Then you have last year's best regular season team, the Baltimore Ravens. They went 14-2. They have that same nucleus or young core of players to work with. So I don't really see them digressing more than 2 or 3 more games in the loss column. And then, the Cincinnati Bengals, they're not really a competitive team, but they did draft Joe Burrow. They had a couple really good picks made in the previous draft. So I'll be eager to see their growth. And as far as just top to bottom in the division, I think that, you can make a case for each team being more competitive than it was last season. So it's likely that the AFC North is going to be tough to win this year.
Agreed. And, I'm going to start talking about the AFC North in a second, because what we're going to do now is I posed this question to you guys a few weeks ago, and we've been going back and forth. And I asked y'all, who is the division that's most likely to get 3 teams in the postseason? Because while you may have the toughest division, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be getting 3 teams in. And I believe that the last time 3 teams from the same division got in was the year that the Falcons were in the Super Bowl. I believe the Falcons had a first-round bye, and then you had the Panthers and Saints playing each other in the first round. It doesn't happen very often. So when we're talking about that, the AFC North for me is the division most likely to get 3 teams in, because the NFC. Okay, let me go back real quick to the NFC West. If we were looking at the playoff, if we zoomed ahead to the playoffs, and we were looking at the bracket, and you had told me that the Rams were in the playoffs, I wouldn't be that surprised. If you had told me that the Cardinals were in the playoffs, I wouldn't be that surprised, in the sense that if we took the NFC South and we took the AFC North, if you told me the Bengals were in the playoffs, I don't have anything for that. If you told me the Panthers were in the playoffs, I would have more than the Bengals, but I still would barely have anything for that. But for the NFC West, for that reason, yes. But because the NFC has so many teams that I can see in the wild card, I think the AFC, you have divisions that are going to beat up on each other. The AFC South is very competitive. I've got 3 teams who could potentially vie for the top spot in that division, but I think they'll beat up on each other too much to get 3 teams in. And the North is the division that I think can do it the best, because the Ravens will most likely get in. The Steelers will be right there. And I think the Browns can get in, because the AFC in the other divisions will beat up on each other. Does the AFC East get 2 teams in is up to be seen. Hopefully that will mean my Pats get into the playoffs. But it's really for the reason as to which conference is easier to get 3 teams in. And I think the NFC is harder to get 3 teams in. And the AFC North has maybe top to bottom the 3 best teams. If you're talking about the top 3 teams in the division, I think it's the AFC North. You can make a case for the AFC South, but again, those games are always pretty close, and they tend to beat up on each other. And so for that reason, I don't see them getting 3 teams in. To me, it's the AFC North. But Pookie, what about you?
I think I'm going to switch places with you on this one. I think the North is the toughest division, but I disagree and think that the NFC West is most likely to get 3 in. Now, I will say that the NFC is deeper all around than the AFC is, but isn't the new playoff formatting starting this year with 7 teams making it?
Yes.
We might have to edit that part out. We don't want to be wrong, but I think so.
No, it definitely is. Yeah, it definitely is.
So with that many teams making the playoffs, you could make a case for any team in the NFC West to make the playoffs. And I think that you both have guaranteed 10-win teams with the Seahawks and 49ers. So you've already got them probably making it. And then you have 2 wildcard teams. The Rams were in the Super Bowl just a couple of years back. And the Cardinals have made vast improvements over the offense. They have a great second-year quarterback in Kyler Murray. And, it's just so likely that at least one of those lower-tier teams between the Rams and the Cardinals is going to make a run this year. And, you already know what you're getting with the Seahawks and the 49ers. So that guarantees the 2, and getting 3 isn't that much harder with 2 great teams like those below them.
What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, when you think of this, you really have to think about what other divisions is your team playing. For example, like the AFC South, they play 8 games, and 4 of them will be against the AFC North, and 4 of them will be against the NFC North. So in that case, they play all NFC North teams and all AFC North teams, as well as their NFC South opponents. And I don't know how many games are left over after that, but they're a couple games here and there. So you have to think about what other divisions they're playing. And I think the team or the division that has a shot, and it's a kind of a dark horse little here, is the AFC West. They play the AFC East, who has the Jets, the Patriots, and the Dolphins, they're all three winnable games. And then with the Bills is tough because they're potentially able to be that they're going to be one of those teams that could go 10-6 or could go 9-7 in my opinion, but they're probably going to win their division doing that. So, like I said, dark horse here, AFC West.
Drew, I have to give you an applause for stealing my thunder for having that interest in the AFC West, because there's so much there to talk about with the Broncos, all that skill, talent that they've added. The Raiders are a great unknown. Chargers, best uniforms in football. Got our guy KJ Hill. And I also have to give you another applause for going deep into it and looking at the divisions that they play. That's a really good pool. I didn't choose the AFC West because I don't know how the Raiders will be. I'm not so sure where that Chargers hate is coming from. The offensive line can be, I guess, kind of suspect. Drew, you mentioned that they have injury troubles. So I like the pool. I love your logic behind it, but I'm just not sold. I'm not sold on the Raiders yet. But, dude, that'd be great, Pookie. You know, we're always talking about the Raiders and getting the Raiders back in the playoffs where they belong.
You know, Mike Mayock, I think he's done a good job of building that roster up over there so that you can't look past the Raiders. Given 4 of their first 5 games are played against playoff teams, and then the 6th one they have to play Tom Brady with the Buccaneers. So it's definitely not a guarantee that they're going to have a great record when they could start 1-4 or 1-5. But the Raiders have added a lot of talent, and I think that's a very good dark horse pick with the AFC West just because of what Mike Mayock may be doing with John Gruden over in Las Vegas. And not to mention the Chargers, they just got Justin Herbert, drafted KJ Hill. They've added some pieces. So I think that they're a year or two away from contention, though, which leaves the Denver Broncos with all that skill position talent that they have, and the Kansas City Chiefs, who are an obvious playoff lot. I'm really interested to see what the Broncos do this year, and if they succeed, you could see 3 teams out of the AFC West making playoffs.
Yeah, and I think with any division, you know, I was looking at a little chart here. With any division or with any team getting in on that 3rd spot, it's going to be a 9-7 team probably, or a team that's tied with another team. So really it comes down to tiebreakers. And so I think if you're going to get a 3rd team in a division, it's going to be someone who's 9-7, maybe 10-6, potentially 8-8, that has a tiebreaker with another team in another division. So
let me ask you this. Let me spring this one on you. We hadn't talked about it yet. The division that's least likely to get 3 in. How about the division that's least likely to get 2 in?
AFC East, no question.
Least likely to get 2 in.
AFC East or NFC East?
That's the hard one. Because I like the Eagles and the Cowboys.
I think that the Eagles and the Cowboys could definitely both make a postseason run. I agree with Drew on the AFC East. I mean, the Dolphins are a couple of years away from contention. The Patriots lost Tom Brady. We don't know how good Bill Belichick is going to be able to make his team on the fly. The Jets.
Before you talk about the Jets have Adam Gase. That's all you have to say.
That's all that needs to be said. It doesn't matter what they add there. Adam Gase will fuck their up.
And before you mentioned they have Adam Gase. Before you even utter one more word about the Patriots not making the playoffs, who's their head coach? So that's to both of y'all, wherever you guys are on the screen.
I'm over here.
Yeah.
I also think that just like I think the AFC West can get 3 teams in, I think they can also only have 1 team in as well.
Whoa, the NFC West?
AFC West, sorry, AFC West. My bad, AFC
okay,
West.
Maybe you said that. Okay. I was
Yeah. The AFC West, the Chiefs are a lock for sure, but the other 3 teams, like you guys both said, like it's one of those things where it's like kind of a dark horse thing, but they're also like the Raiders were pretty close last year. I think if the Broncos have the right thing, and I think the Chargers, if they're healthy, have a chance.
Mm-hmm.